all the stuff out. So people
I came in one day and it was obvious Keith didn't have enough to do. So I said, Keith, I got just the project for you. Right? I mean, he jumped at it. Just jumped at it.
He wants to ensure that we don't have duplicates of anything.
Indicated that was what at the last meeting we finalized the line design. Oh, okay, well, that's something we can discuss.
Paul, is it your proposal just to have gender neutral for everything? Select board, chairperson? Okay. Okay. Okay.
For example, the blue is supposed to be the font, correct?
I think we're done with it. So, unless I missed something, or this type of stuff,
I like it. Let's assume it's done.
I think Jack actually raised a good point about just using consistent language. Could we make, could you make 10.7.2 track to 10.4.2? I'm sorry?
where the board of selectmen, of selectmen.
Yes.
Capital B. Any other issues on that page?
Just one question, on some of the committees, we require that members be registered voters of the town, and some do not require that. There, any rhyme or reason? for that?
Well, they
So it's I can't hear you.
I'm sorry. I've experienced in some circumstances where one community is not fulfilled. There's a number of improvements from joining. That people serve. That's a big problem. May not want to apply that. I, you know, I've never had a problem with that, but
Well, that whole board is a judicial oversight anyway, so you want to try to have some sort of expertise if you can on that. So it makes sense to open it up to others if we need it. Yep. Mhm. Correct. Yep.
But to follow up on John's point, so the Board of Appeals is different for a reason. The Economic Development Committee is different for a reason. Some of the others are residents, some of them are registered voters. Why? Yes, the assessment review is registered voters and the planning board is registered voters. And the budget board is registered voters. I don't really care which one we choose. I'm inclined to say registered voter for all but the two that require exceptions.
If you make it residence, if you're a little bigger pool, nothing in practice, that would make it economic.
Is there, Donna, do you remember historically, was there any purpose of identifying the difference between a registered voter and a resident? Is any of these committees that call for registered voters in a different classification that your voting status would make a difference, whether you should be on the committee or not?
Well, one thing about registered voter is a simple question of age.
Yeah, that's
You can't, yeah.
If you're a registered voter, you're a resident. Is that what you're saying?
Now, if you're a registered voter, you're a resident, but you're also 18.
Voting age.
Okay, I,
We
so,
don't want the whole grade school type stuff.
so make them all registered voters.
That would make sense.
That would be my inclination to do that. And if somebody isn't civic minded enough to register to vote, should they really be serving on one of these committees?
Well, and I know, I understand, so I would just say unless there's a specific reason for the difference, then,
Yeah.
and a registered voter gives you age, it gives you residence, it gives you, you know, a much bigger identification.
Yeah, I don't have any objections to that. That's common sense. That makes sense.
No, no. I don't. I apologize. Okay. Which I, let me ask a question.
No, I don't think so.
I think it leaves a gaping hole to do this, and I apologize for not realizing it before. But Arundel has 3 elected, President two elected, and appointed members of the regional school unit. Shouldn't this charter address how those members are elected by the town of Arundel? And also, I hate to bring it up, Tom, but it's subject to recall if the voters want to do that. Okay.
And I'm gonna,
That's an opinion expressed by a lawyer.
No, no,
by
no,
RSU.
I understand.
not so.
My question is, this is a bigger issue that has to be solved. So,
Well, I think you're discussing two issues, whether or not we should keep 5.0 as independent school board, municipal school in there in the event that we ever have one again. That's one issue. The other issue we're now talking about is recall. And I'm not sure how we want to apply that or,
Well, it's not
Because
just
it's-
recall, but
I mean, there are varying opinions already with regard to that recall thing, the position that Kenny Bunk has taken, the position that the RSU has taken, and to a lesser extent now, the position that Kenny Bunkport has taken in reference to, in the event it happens to them. So,
But it's not just, recalls, in my mind, just a tiny part of it. Right now, the language in 5.0 spells out that you have to be a registered voter. You have to reside in Arundel. And it provides for, this also provides for filling a vacancy. Oh,
we don't
School budgets
personally,
do.
whatever's in the budget.
School budgets do.
so, eligibility and filling
my immediate concern is those two things, yes. And I don't know where the provisions are, what statute, whether it's state or whatever, for how board members are elected to an RSU.
They're on it. Title 28 doesn't have.
I'm not familiar with Maine law, but one of my subspecialties in municipal finance is regional authorities. Water, sewer, regional jails, regional radio system, all kinds of regional authorities, anywhere from 2 to 7 members. And in every single case, the individual municipalities have the power to appoint and remove their representatives on those regional authorities.
Not in
It certainly isn't addressed in 20A.
No, it isn't.
I understand that, but my concern, and this is just me spitballing and throwing some more discussion points out here, under our home rule authority and our ability to place it into our charter, can we not place some specifics on our elected officials and how they act within the framework of their duties over there at the school board?
I mean, let me add an additional argument. If the members of the RSU were elected by Kennybunk, and Arundel in aggregate, that would be one thing, but they're not. Arundel votes for 3 representatives, Kennebunk votes for 3 representatives, Kennebunk 4 representatives.
Guys, this is not a question of whether we want the right or whether we think we should, or whether we want a standard or don't want a standard. Every one of us in this room may have a different opinion about that. Okay? This is a question of straight legality. Simple as that. In my opinion, all we need to do is make one call, 2 at the most, and this is resolved. We're gonna sit around this table and argue this till the cows come home, but it's a legal issue. Either you can write it and put it in your charter, which is, I'm not saying I'm against that, but you better find out you can, all right, or you've done a lot of work for nothing. Or you hear what RSU 21 just heard, that this is a issue of Title 20A. Title 28 does not address it. I spent a lot of time looking and made a lot of calls. So I say, make a call, Tom, legally to someone and get the results.
The problem, Jack, is gonna be that Tom makes a call, gets a specialist opinion.
There's a court's gonna make a decision on this. It's in front of the court now.
To be decided in court, and we should make it clear in our charter what our requirements are. It may not hold up in court down the road. I think you're gonna have a conflict of interest from time between the RSU. All from the start. We should have something in the charter that we feel
So John, call Maine Municipal, all right, who governs the towns, and say to Maine Municipal, send me copies of language of recall provisions for school boards that you have at the municipal level. Okay, so that we,
Maybe we skip recall right now. Just address eligibility and the duties and compensation if that's applicable.
It's
and
not.
Appointment of replacement. The board of selectmen, I think at the last meeting, appointed a replacement.
Correct, as we're statutory,
that's,
as we're
that's
required to do.
statutory.
Yep,
Huh?
as we're
That's
required to do
statutory.
by law.
Statutory and state law.
Yes, as we're required by law.
Let me just tell everybody.
Tom, speak up.
So, I've got Mr. Pearson's opinion. He's not representing the other issue against the
Yeah.
Kenny Bunk has filed suit for declaratory judgment against this.
Okay, you already got it. You already have it then.
No,
No, I mean, no, we have no judicial guidance anywhere.
Oh, okay.
They're trying to get. Superior Court, that's not what they're doing, that's the law court, no, but. Jack is suggesting maybe. Kenny Bunk goes to town and goes. Oh, and that doesn't mean the petitioners don't intervene. Keep it going, so that's still a possibility. But Mr. Pearson says that legal analysis that a town charter may arguably specifically apply recall procedures of the town, to school board directors who are representative of the municipality authority structure. As Arundel's charter appears to do, what appears to probably limited fashion.
yeah,
Okay, so.
so we can do it.
Says you could say that Arundel in your charter.
Right.
You gotta be specific about it. Okay. That's how I.
So get some language.
Right now, we accept.
Right.
Now, I think we need to address that, but I don't know whether you want to wait to see if there's a. It's brought a motion for something called a preliminary injunction. That'll get answered pretty quick in the process. Standard preliminary injunction with reasonable likelihood of success. If in fact they get a preliminary injunction, that's a pretty good indication that the board may in fact be agreed
So why don't we just wait and let somebody else do the work for us?
You may want to do that, I mean, trying to find out what the answer to the question is, these are the Superior Court level, and that's not something that they even we have to.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm missing something. Where's the use of term? Explicitly refers to a local town charter as being an appropriate framework for doing this. Why don't you just go ahead and get it done?
One word.
Right.
Well,
But
Wait.
What the court is going to find isn't whether or not the commission follows current charter. But the court is going to make a decision. Situation anybody, which I gather doesn't have the same kind of language.
but the guidance there should be very give us some idea. But
Okay.
that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
So I'm going. Compromise. Everything else.
Well, and not only that, rather than spend our money legally or whatever, let somebody else spend some money and get it resolved and we can respond accordingly, you know?
The only problem I have taking this attitude, and let somebody else get it resolved is no disrespect to the legal profession. But it's never the answer is no. There's always another court you can go to. There's always another level. And we could wait years. We could be 5 years down the road, getting ready for another.
John, we can keep meeting, we can keep meeting, and you know, we're all friends.
Find a really good people to work, and then we'll never have to have it.
Yeah.
Recall is a relatively small part of it. It is important, but my original point. My original point was, I think there needs to be handled, whatever you want to call it, for the regional school and board members in terms of eligibility, compensation, place. I think that's covered statutorily, fine, but right now, addressed in the charter for the school board.
When this charter was written, we had an independent school, if I'm not mistaken, correct? So it was, that language was specific to that environment. Yeah.
That phrase was added, because that was when the transition occurred with the RSU.
Okay.
We didn't know whether it was gonna work, not gonna work. within the 6 months. And it- I don't know.
Gotcha.
That's right.
And Charles said in that, just because the rest of the world says, do it this way, Arundel doesn't have to. So, we want to figure something out in order that will work for us.
If it's legal and if it will stand up and not end up in one challenge after another. I don't want to write anything that's an invitation for, you know, every Tom, Dick and Harry to challenge it.
Absolutely not.
I think waiting and let, at least for a while, and John will be all right. He'll. That's twice he's agreed with you. You disagreed with me all night, you vote.
All right, 9.5.3.
terms of, the town manager does take consideration, like, that stays at the town meeting, but vote. Does make sure everything is the board that or budget board, but at no point in time, you make it. As recommended by town manager. The budget board perhaps. And ultimately,
Is the fire chief the only one we have any reference? Yeah, is that the only one right now that we have referenced as compensation within the charter?
everyone of the compensation. That, like that. That's not what happened.
Why?
Right.
Well, if we don't address, if the charter doesn't address the compensation of any other department.
Does everyone?
Oh, it does.
Everyone.
The charter addresses that.
What's that?
The charter addresses that.
Yes.
Where?
Every one of these. Well, this is a compensation section. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, shall we accept the blanket variance for compensation?
Well, yeah, I think it needs to be,
Hold on,
yep. Voters.
town clerk just says, one shall provide for a salary to be paid to the clerk as full compensation for the performance of his duties.
Well, maybe the clerk, was the clerk elected at some point? Yeah,
That would,
right. Yeah, I think whatever language, what Paul said, I think whatever language we come up with is recommendation and ultimately approval by the voters at the annual town meeting. So
And then just use the same one for everybody.
that's what I would do.
Shall be recommended by the town manager. In conjunction with the budget board.
Maybe proposed by town manager and recommended by the boards for final approval at the annual town meeting. Proposed by me, goes to the boards, they make their final determination, then it's recommended. If you look on the warrant, it always says board recommends, and then it gets voted. The budget board and the board make recommendations on wages, on all the things that you have to vote on at the annual town. Yes, I think so. Well, mine was in essence proposed by the manager, recommended by the Board of Selectmen and Budget Board, final approval at annual town meeting. There can be. Most of it's done then, but I get your point. You could say town meeting, and that would encompass both annual and special in the event that we needed to.
Keith, does that mean that it's gotta be approved by the budget board?
Well, yeah, in essence, the budget board and the Board of Selectmen make recommendations on the final dollar amount. So so let's just, for argument's sake, there's a compensation package in there that's, thousands of dollars more than what the budget board wants, but the Board of Selectmen say yes, so they could put on their side, we recommend, the budget board would say we don't recommend. Then it goes to the annual town meeting, there's discussion,
Okay.
and then both points of view could be expressed, and then the voters decide.
The way I thought you worded it was that each one had to approve it. And that's not true. Each one doesn't have to approve it, right? I mean.
Well, they just have to make a recommendation.
Okay, I got it. Right.
It's okay. The sequence sounds right.
I have a semantics question. Does the staggered 3-year terms only apply to the 3 elected? Or the remainder, or all of the, I think the way it's written, it applies to all of them.
Correct. All.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that was the intention.
When the manager or the board.
Correct.
Or is it the budget board chairman?
Budget board chair or. So, when it's time for the budget board to convene and start your process, the budget board chair has to follow. If something is necessary for that.
What's for? Yeah, don't apply for keep. You have some up things on. What's for? Chairman, it's called.
That's the perfect time.
Time, therefore, keeps.
Or they could force my hand and say, we want it in 2 weeks.
Well, that works. It is a perfect time.
Well spoken.
Yeah.
Okay, and what the point three, what the board do is. 123.4, and this was added last time, so. And we did receive an elected position on the budget board. So we'll have to separate out elected positions.
Makes perfect sense.
What was, got a little bit of a hang up when we say things like, this position shall be filled within 30 days. But my time down at that time, what is filled position. I think it should say something like within 30 days or as soon as possible.
Or just fill as soon as possible.
Fill as soon as possible.
Never mind the days.
I think I have a problem with that, only because with the wrong place, we're gonna get around to it when we feel like it.
So it could be abused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes the urgency out.
I got it.
At least here, if you're saying 30 days, you know, set the date as a goal, and you can't.
Makes sense.
I officially, what it does,
It's sorry.
I'm officially disagreeing with
Chairman, Vice Chairman. Yes.
Which one's Donna? Yeah.
And it would make sense to be, in my mind, to be consistent, that if there's a recall, whether it's someone on the board of selectmen or any of the boards or the school board, it should be the same process.
I brought new copies, new corrected copies.
Oh, is it changed from the one you sent?
The only change was the official name of Selectman Hayes. She mentioned it the other night, so I made the correction for her. She did.
I think I got it.
That's what I.
Okay.
That's the right one.
Yep.
it would be. Oh, yeah.
I've got a style problem with the first sentence. The phrase thereafter undertake to implement the approved expenses. I don't think those are the right words. It could be undertake to implement the expenditure of the approved expenses. But sorry, I realize I'm being fanatical, but you don't implement an expense. No, Tom, you understand what I'm saying. So,
Board shall thereafter implement the expenditure of
okay. I ask you a question in silence? Am I the only one here troubled by the idea of giving the Board of Selectmen carte blanche? And anytime there is a finding that an emergency exists?
But that may not be the case. That's the piece of the charter on the 10 minutes. Last year, Tom put on the page. So I would say that I would have something to solve that. You want a board budget to solve.
I'm sorry?
You want a budget to solve.
I didn't say anything about the budget.
I wouldn't like you.
Oh, okay.
Someone did, I thought.
It may have been.
John. Yeah.
Actually, I'm sorry, Donna, you are correct. That was a last ditch effort.
Okay. I just- We'll take on today. But your responsibility. Yes.
One suggestion, Don. I would, instead of the policy shall be regularly reviewed, why can you put like annually reviewed?
Well, there's a reason for that. So let me explain it first.
Okay.
The other way.
Yeah.
The original issue was listed on the J. Purchase procedures providing the delegation of purchasing authority within the common category of law. That got into the discussion of the policy. Hence the addition of the word policy. My proposal was then to add A, which to establish a policy. Defining the benefit process utilizing the acquisition of all goods and services on behalf of the town. The policies should regularly be by the board of budget board and adjusted as needed to reflect the town. That's I took what Tom wrote. seriously edited. The content and the intent are the same. Now, in terms of regularly reviewed, at the last meeting, battered around, annually.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know
I
that.
understand.
Yeah, my apology.
And my rationale for putting it this way is, right now, the reason we're reviewing it is because it became apparent in the circumstances, the $5,000 wasn't enough. So the argument was to raise that. The reason for that is the circumstances were such that the $5,000 isn't enough. The same thing we brought this review. So if right now the threshold is 25,000, and 2 years from now, 25,000 is ridiculous, it has to be raised to 40,000. The members of the budget board and the selectmen would come to that conclusion, this needs to be raised. That would trigger the review, as opposed to just a timeline. So the review would be triggered on circumstances that. I would be still more.
Shall be regularly reviewed by the board. The Board being,
It's under,
so that board refers to selectmen.
I had another,
Raise the 25,000. Still.
yes,
Not.
yes.
no,
No. Right.
But to raise that number, you would.
no, that number
That's
should
just a
be
policy.
changed to 5 million by the board tomorrow. That number could be changed to 5 million by a board of supervisors, by a board of selectmen tomorrow.
Correct.
No. Well, it does say now by the budget board. I'm not clear on how. It's a selectmen's policy, select board's policy. That's what it says right in the title. So I don't know whether maybe this should regularly reviewed by the board and budget board, or adjusted as needed. I guess what I'm getting at is that you added the budget board here, but it's not clear to me how the budget board participates in the decision by the select.
It would be my,
We were gonna make, we thought we needed to raise the limit. But
Okay, I guess it's at least consulting with the budget.
Right.
correct.
And because of national political discussions, forgive me for this, but I had another thought. The policy statement, not the charter, says the board shall meet and make a finding that an emergency exists, and upon such finding by an affirmative vote of, it should be a majority, to make what's here work, of the board, proceed with an expenditure, an emergency expenditure, which would be in excess of 25,000, not through a competitive process. Majority, I guess asking, would it be too much to ask for a unanimous vote by the selectmen to declare an emergency?
Yep, I think it would be. I mean, we've talked about running, yeah, people have that don't always understand their purpose and not everybody on boards is of the quality that you would like, and you get a problem child on
Who
board
just says no to everything.
and
Okay.
everything
be on
gets
a power
stopped by a
trip.
behavior problem. Sorry,
What,
it's true. Huh? Well, it's elementary.
well, no, it's human nature. You're making a good point.
Yeah.
So I mean, you could definitely have one dysfunctional member. They're what, they're 5 people?
Yes.
On the board, okay. All right, I withdraw my idea.
I would like to see this. Kind of, end of the bottom line of the economic. What is the economic conditions for the local side? Housing.
It could be national economic conditions. I mean,
Yeah, I see what you're saying, that, but I think you look, the way it's worded, you limit it to economic conditions of the town and the state. And I think it would be better off just economic conditions, period. Let the both the boards decide what is good, and, you know, what are the good economic conditions.
what if we were to add their economic conditions and availability of required goods and services? Or maybe replace economic conditions with availability of.
I don't really see what the problem with the word economic.
I don't, I guess what I'm getting at is the idea of changing the policy right now is that we've had enough inflation to the point where a hard $5,000 limit is silly. It's just like silly.
Oh,
Okay, so and 25,000 seems like a reasonable number to me. But it really, it's partly based on the availability of goods and services and just the efficiency for the town, right? Never mind, we can leave it as.
About ending it up and adjust it as needed.
I think that's. I'm fine with that.
if you want to, look like, I think it's a good idea, but I don't like trusting the policy. And then reviewing the policy. and something.
Regularly.
The rest of the wording is somewhat subjective, but to be honest with you, I mean, anybody can interpret the rest of the wording. Right.
Yeah, but I guess my.
You're right.
Yeah.
I hate to admit it, but you're right. I don't think it's a hill to die on. I don't think this is an issue that get a lot of heartbreak in it. I'd leave it and move on.
I agree. I'd leave the town and the state in there.
We generally know what it means, and most people would, so.
Okay, Donna, the knit in the second to last. Maybe this isn't your document, the purchasing policy. The affirmative vote of a majority.
What was it, Jim?
Affirmative vote of a majority of the board.
Now, I'd like to propose something that John would support. So John, can you write down what that I could propose so that you could support it? Because he's blowing me off all night long. Okay. So 25 or
2.5,
Oh.
page 7, top of the page.
Who's making the call, whether somebody can stop or not. Permanent disability got a real problem.
Yep.
Yeah,
Statutes and federal regulations. That's got to go away.
I agree.
Keith falls in the book.
Yeah, permanent
Right,
disability,
right,
I'm right there. I think death, resignation, non-acceptance, period. Yep.
Could, what about mental incapacity or something? Right.
Yep.
Okay, so it would be death, resignation, non-acceptance, or removal from office. Oh, okay.
I can't imagine they wrote that back then.
We see, Paul, it was a way of getting rid of that problem selectment. Say you're incompetent, get out of here.
I think you'd be in court on that one, wouldn't you?
Yes.
What's the number, Tom? Okay,
Take the town position, or compensation divided or part-time town. But I know he
As per diem employees, yep.
Right, and, I know that in the past, some of them have that thousand pounds. When later on, document does speak. He says respect to fire and rescue. Volunteer and time.
Why don't we just write in that exception and
Yeah.
move on?
That's what I'm suggesting. They refer to.
If there's only one example, write it in, right?
I think.
Right.
Oh, fire department,
And we have, right now, we have a selectman who's a per diem
fire department.
fire department employee.
And under this, that we could. So I just say, that's the issue.
So are we gonna add that under 4.1? Okay. Yeah, let me look at the, whatever they come up with language.
Why public works?
They do plowing, that's public works.
You could have a selectman who has experience. Let's just pick on Phil for a minute, as years of experience in a plow truck, and we need him. Right now, we couldn't use him.
So you'd add public works right to that.
I think so.
Well, let me play, I understand your point. But wouldn't want I wouldn't want a situation where the public works director was also a selectman.
There's language that prevents that.
Then I'm fine.
And this will also say a per diem, don't it? Language to further identify that it's not a full-time employee.
I wouldn't think
That's
so.
pushing it.
Yep. Because they would be making, decisions
Yeah,
I think if you look at the word per diem.
yeah.
per diem or
that
part-time.
classifies-
Yeah.
Okay, so. Except for per diem positions in the fire department and public works.
to the EMT, which I'll show you that. Don't sign up. Okay. By the EMT, I'm just a survey, you don't bother.
Okay, the total for the part-time staff employment. Except for per diem positions. Fire department.
Positions or assignments? Are they regular, are they positions?
Yes, so the per diem is he covers a shift and he's qualified to.
Okay.
don't have a conversation with the town.
I would think so.
Let's just put, yeah. Or we could just not pay him.
Well, that's true too.
Hey, that's what happened to me.
You were town manager at one point?
He was interim town manager here for a while.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Town manager won't watch it too.
Yeah, he's been around.
Substitution, I don't know why.
I think the whole document should be gender neutral. Wherever we need to make those changes, I think Paul's got a good handle on that. He can probably help us along the way.
I'm just thinking right now, if you look at this. for the 10 years, that's like, gender designation. Particularly the state of it.
They're gonna think they should move to Kennebunkport.
Well, time to do it now. Time to do it now. You
I
know,
think so too.
and by the time we do it again, we'll be looking at it differently. You watch.
I'm old school. I don't like it, but I think it's time.
First of all, selectmen in the title, not the legislature.
Right.
Therefore, saying that the legislature. We have had two selectmen in this town over time, because of female, neither one. Ever tried. I went to selection twice. I didn't care about it. It doesn't matter. And as a personal design, if you are back to sure that a word makes you feel upset. What makes you feel like? You know,
That's sort of opinion, Donna.
I'm totally opposed to this. Language, we're doing too much. And as far as Augusta is concerned, if you listen to Augusta, we have a Thompson Bracelet, we work with the we don't. No. If we are independent thinkers, we still be federal court, but we're not, but we left. And this is not kind of issue. That language on product, the response is not, and we are not, then we need it.
You
Well
convinced,
spoken.
you can,
You
you
didn't
convinced,
convince me, but
you
well
you
spoken.
convinced me, not that I needed much convincing, so.
I think you're right about selectmen, though. I think that's been sort of thrown around the state of a number of, cases where they indicated that that was a position title. It wasn't a gender title, it was a position title.
And we're gonna account for that.
I don't think we've been serving, right? You know, the last survey. Somebody just thought about running. That's why it's like men.
I've been calling Phil it for years, you know, right? I always just say it over there, right? Exactly.
So what is the start of that?
Grown men, that's right.
But we're not in the board, it doesn't matter.
But Velma's been on the board for 40 years, Tom.
But that's still.
Velma's been on the board for 40 years.
I don't understand that.
I'm gonna, Donna's point about mangling the English language. It is something I feel pretty strongly about. I think that our language is being deliberately modified.
The argument about something that hasn't generated, that about what the next generation doing, why we don't speak a
Looks like this body's gonna have to take some sort of form of vote on how they're gonna proceed with that. Would be my suggestion at some point here. I think there seems to be, positions on either side of the aisle here, so.
Well, these are tough discussions, because there's no right or wrong. Sure. Okay, and I joked about your opinion, but I understand exactly how you feel. I mean, it may not be the same for someone else, but it's not gonna get resolved by factual, historic review. It's gonna get resolved by how we want to deal with it. Yes or no?
Is something that would go to the board, right? And, up and down the whole document, or does it go through? You're not opposed.
The second issue was across the board. Now, when I do a second, he shall or she shall. The thing is, that doesn't get much different. It's a problem, that's what you're supposed to do. Not what you have to do. I understand the issue from the other side. I'm absolutely don't agree with it, and I never have.
And we respect that. I mean, I respect that, because sometimes I have passion about issues as well, but my only thought on this is, if we feel this is something that the future will direct, or the future will lead us to, then we're reviewing this now. In my opinion, we probably should address the gender issue. Because it's gonna go that way. Why wait until somebody brings it up and we're back here at the table doing it again? Because, and it just, the timing of it is what, as far as my own personal opinion on the subject, I tend to agree with you, Don, okay? Old school, and tend to agree with you, but our assignment is to review the charter and to make appropriate changes where we think we should, and if that's an area that we should change, we should.
I think this is just change for the sake of change. I don't see where doing this kind of gender equal change makes the job.
This is not going to improve the charter, one way or the other. It doesn't change the direction of the town, it doesn't change the rules and everything. It doesn't change the organization of the opportunities, it simply changes the program.
Changes the image of the document as presented for the future, right?
And I will warn you that if you're part of the future, that change will be an irrelevant at best, lack of possible. Because I think we're in a very interesting time in discussing how we approach this. And I don't know that some of this is going to last.
I would also, Paul asked a good question about, is the town meeting going to vote on the entire document? Or are they going to vote on pieces? The answer is that the whole bunch of changes. And honestly, I am a little concerned about the purchasing policy not being addressed separately, but let's put the whole thing up for changes. I think if we do a wholesale style change, that could actually be something that enough voters don't like.
Where are you? What century you live? 1789?
Well,
We're beyond that.
well, I guess my point is, if the document were already gender neutral, I wouldn't dream of suggesting that we go back to 18th century language, okay? My point is, in the warrant, they're going to get a black line version of the town charter, correct? Aren't voters going to get a black line version of the new town charter? Showing all the changes.
Because there's no right or wrong to this, and people strongly in a direction. It appears to me that we probably should go back to what Keisha suggested and simply find out if this group wants to change it or not. Because unless you think a continued discussion is going to change your mind, if you, each one of you sitting here know exactly how you feel about this, let's find that out and move on to, and say, okay, we're not going to do what we're going to do. We know how Donna feels. She expressed it very, very well, very professionally, and that's, I respect it, but I understand what Tom is saying, and let's just vote. I mean, we're not gonna be any different in 45 minutes, I don't think we are right now. But yeah, I mean, I hate to make it cold turkey like that, but sometimes a group on an issue that you can't research the right answer, you have to do that.
I agree. Velma? Yeah, I think we should have everybody here and then put it to a vote, and whatever it does, it does. We'll go from there.
I hope not. He's caused enough trouble.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get out of here in less than an hour.
He certainly got you all cranked up, Donna, so. Life's been hard. Life's been hard. I was trying to get you to, go on with something. I couldn't find it.